Well, perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for being on the podcast today. And I know everyone is super busy, and especially in these times, has a lot of different directions they're going. So really appreciate that you took up my invite and wanted to share what you have going on because it's very special with my audience. So if you guys don't mind, first, why don't you give a quick introduction of yourselves?
Yeah, I'll start. Josh Anderson in Nashville, Tennessee. Been in the business since 2006. Originally from Nashville. I was in the military, a veteran, and in 2019 we did 234 transactions for a little over 104 million, which was right at 3 million in commissions.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you.
Brendan?
Any other introductions?
Yeah, Brendan, I was born in the inner city. I walked to school uphill both ways in the wintertime. I'm a lender here in Nashville. Been in the business 25 years. Moved from DC to Nashville in 1999. Set up my business here, and always kind of started in the approach like the Todd Duncan. You call realtors. That's how you do it. That's how I was trained. Worked for a big training company that trains realtors and lenders for about 12 years. That's how I met Dino. Met Josh in about 2012 with this idea in my head that we'll share with you, which is, how do you become a better business partner to people, especially realtors, and how do you build value? So we've been working on this for not, 2 years. It's been in process for 7. And
wow.
Norm, just, thanks.
Yeah.
So appreciate you inviting us on.
Yeah, you got it. And Dino, why don't you chime in and say
Yeah,
hi?
sure. So my name's Dino. I'm in Sacramento, California. I've been a professionally trained business coach to realtors and lenders since 2004. I have a background in lending that has transitioned into consulting realtors and lenders. And I've had the opportunity to work with both Brendan and Josh and their teams. So I think we're in store for something pretty special here, Norm.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So to start with, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but basically you're going to share what you're doing different, better when it comes to the realtor-lender relationship, the business relationship. So first, let's talk about what's the status quo in the industry and sort of what's broken. So describe the traditional model of realtor-lender relationship with all its warts.
Yeah, I think, and Brendan can probably give a little bit different spin, but I think the traditional is like, lenders just call on realtors and look for buyer leads, and they're probably told, hey, go call 25 or 30 realtors a week and hound them until you get a coffee meeting with them, or send them swag in the mail, or whatever it is. And I think it's a piece of that probably works to some extent. I mean, I know it does, but I think from a realtor perspective, it's not the ideal scenario, and it always feels kind of one-sided. So,
Josh, didn't you get like a fishing pole in the mail once?
Yeah, tell them a fishing pole story, dude. That's a good one.
I get stuff in the mail all the time. I mean, it's like, for me, a lot of that swag just doesn't add value. Like, I don't need a Starbucks gift card. I don't need a lottery ticket scratch off, although my kids do enjoy me bringing those home for them. But it's one of those things like, that's not value add. Like, that's great. I guess I appreciate it, but it's not adding value to my team. Or like, I guess I look at the ideal ultimate business partnership of like, all right, you go find me a listing, and that listing 50% of the time is going to need to sell and buy and will likely stay in town. Or maybe they don't stay in town and they still need a mortgage. And if that lender is licensed in multiple states, then maybe they can help them.
Yeah.
Instead of just calling me,
yeah.
Instead of just calling and asking for, a buyer business, like I run a team and I do work with buyers, but not very often. Like 90% of my business is listings.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit before about how basically with lenders, it's sort of a shotgun approach, right? They're just trying to, contact as many as possible, but not bring in a lot of value. How much business do realtors really get from lenders, and lenders really get from vice versa? If you think, any way to qualify those numbers?
Yeah, I think that's a really probably case by case basis depending on the relationship. But I would say the average lender that has a good relationship probably sends maybe, 2 or 3 deals a year to the, and that's not a number that is absolutely accurate. I'm just kind of saying it's probably 2 or 3.
Do you remember when you were, God, I'm tongue tied, when you had the Keller, like the inner circle, and you had your group of 25 and you were asking them individually, and
Well, that's what,
what they
yeah.
said?
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking of. I mean, basically they said, well, I said, how many deals a year does your lender send? And they were like, well, they might send me a deal or two. They let me, help them when they bought or sold their house, and they pay for a client event, or they pay for, $1,000 a month of Zillow. And,
Or they sponsor at the golf tournament or something. Yeah.
yeah. And so if that works for them, great. For me, I think it's an artificial relationship to say, hey, pay X to co-sponsor a client event, or pay for, let's pay for Zillow leads. And then, ultimately they're expecting me to convert those Zillow leads so they benefit from the buyer piece of it. And I don't necessarily have the capacity. I could, but I don't necessarily have the capacity or want to go call a bunch more people, because I don't need to call a bunch more people.
Yeah, and that's the most inefficient way to do and get business, right? Is spreading yourself so thin with your time and just trying to cold call these. Well, I mean, it's not cold call, but a lot of these leads we know aren't super high quality.
Yeah.
Well, and to add on the lender side, and Dino and I have coached, and currently, we have a client in Atlanta, and it's interesting because when we started working with him, he eventually put this list out there on this, in this form. There were about 75 agents that he worked with, 75. And then we really forced him to really look at it. And then he was like, well, really, I only work with about 30. And then when you look at the numbers, he really, the bulk of his business comes from 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then, and we've been working with him on this strategy of what happens if you just worked with those 3 or 4 and you picked 1 or 2 and tried to do what Josh and I are doing to really fuel your business. Because the reality is you can't have 30 relationships.
No.
For a lender, it's one way. Hey, I call 30 realtors, each send me 2 deals a year to 3 deals a year. I get paid. Thank you. And here's your Starbucks card and your fishing pole. Thanks.
And you're pretending, like you guys said, it's artificial. You're pretending to be invested in that relationship or to give a lot more than the reality. So it's not a two-way.
Well, the problem with it is it works better for one person than the other. So if I'm calling 100 leads a month, a year later, the lender spent, $12,000 and I've got 1,200 leads, and it's not like I'm calling 1,200 leads and getting in touch with 1,200 people. I'm calling 1,200 leads, probably between text, email, and phone call, probably 10 or 12 times. So I'm making, let's just call it 10,000 plus calls to those 1,200 leads, or 10,000 types of contacts. And at the end of the day, I look up and go, wow, we closed 4 of these last year. And I can quantify that another 7 of them are nurtures that might or might not work with us.
And you look at the time value of money, what could you be doing else with that time? I mean, that's a pretty low, So basically, in a nutshell, and we'll go into this a lot, but how did you guys solve that traditional realtor mortgage lender relationship?
Yeah, I would say we haven't necessarily. We're in the process of solving it, right? So, and I think what we're doing is probably it's not something that you're going to do in a month or 3 months or 6 months and get necessarily a ton of traction. It takes time, and there's these modules within it that we haven't even done all of them. I mean, we're doing 2 or 3 or 4 out of maybe 8 different things that we have as this ideal ultimate, business partnership. And if it's something you think is going to happen in 6 months and you're going to get a lot of traction, it's not going to happen.
So introduce, if you guys want, though, the ultimate business partner arrange system and what you guys are doing with that.
Yeah, Brendan, do you want to give him an overview?
Yeah. So I think what it boils down to is when Josh and I first started doing business together, and for any lender out there, if you've called on 30 to 40 realtors and that's your model and you're thinking this is for you possibly, the first mindset thing is I don't own Josh and he doesn't own me. And the average lender gets so upset, yeah, kind of, on the tennis court that he's never beat me. He's never beat me, but he always wins, right? So the idea of you've got 30 girlfriends if you're a dude, and then when you walk in and like all of a sudden she's with another guy, like the average lender gets so like, oh my God, you're not referring me. Like it's such a petty.
It's a good analogy. I didn't know where you were going with that, but that's actually a very good analogy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The lender behind the scene, if we had a big room, everybody throws realtors under the bus because they're not loyal, they're not this, and this fidelity thing is a huge deal. And even if a lender let the realtor list their home and worked with them personally, then it's like they own the realtor. That realtor needs to send them everything. Yeah. And then I walk in and there's Josh having coffee with Michael Rebus. And I'm like, oh, geez. You got to get over that first. So the foundation of this as a lender is there's two sides to a realtor. A realtor is a listing agent, put a black line in the sand, and then they're a buyer's agent, and they're two distinct skills. They're separate skills. Josh is a great listing agent. He's an okay buyer's agent.
Hey.
Well,
he's a little sloppy.
Be a better buyer's agent if he put all of his time and focus into that.
But Norm, he has 7 buyer's agents that I work with that's their role.
Exactly.
So when Josh and I had conversations and he would say, hey, listings are more valuable to me, it took me a while to process that. And then I got lucky and I figured out kind of in those funnel days that a lot of these leads own. And that's how we started. That's where I think I initially differentiated myself, was that all of a sudden Josh and I were calling a bunch of leads that I had gotten through a community website on Facebook. And all of a sudden he had 15, 20 listing opportunities and was having lots of phone calls with, and it was like, hey, where are you getting this? And it was like, well, I ran this little, we still have that going, but that was kind of the beginning.
Okay.
In the middle and now it has been a process of looking at bullet points that we've created, whether it be meeting.
Well, so let me interrupt real quick. So just a really quick overview of the Ultimate Business Partner Program and all these things that Brendan's saying is correct. There are all these bullet points. There's 8 to 10 of them. But I think the overview piece is, how can we create relationships between a realtor and a lender where ultimately you're making $250,000 a year? That's the goal. I looked back at my GCI for 2019 and I didn't hit $250,000. But I can say, if I dug a little bit more and looked at some of the people that you introduced me to that weren't buyers or sellers, but were other, relationships that sent me off deals, then I can probably say it was pretty easily $250,000. The stuff that you directly gave me to the team that closed, our average commission, our average price is about $463,000. So I look at 13 deals, that was $180,000 to the team.
Wow.
So I can look at 5 other deals if I dug a little bit more that came from Brendan's introductions in some capacity.
You guys have been working together for a long time, so yeah.
And you can't really, it would be hard to target it perfectly, but I know I can look at my numbers and go, these 13 deals in 2019 came directly from him, and another maybe 5, maybe even 10 came from people he introduced me to in some capacity.
You know what's funny, Josh? And this is really interesting. And this morning, Norm, we were talking about it prior to the call. Josh has a new guy named Nick on his call team. And the average lender watching, when your realtor, a bigger realtor says, oh, I got a call center, if you're not doing trainings with those call guys around mortgage talk, because the average lead they're talking to, 8 out of 10 need a mortgage conversation before a realtor conversation or a buyer consult in Josh's office. So I've spent years training his call center team. That's part of the 8 bullet points of getting into helping his business be more effective. So Nick calls me this morning, says, call this guy, he's an expired listing. He's going to move to Indiana. I'm licensed to do business in Indiana, but I spent 10 minutes earlier before this call kind of pre-selling Josh to get a $900,000 listing. What's realtors and lenders watching? 3% of, because Josh isn't going to do it at a discount. So if he makes 27 grand plus your $495 processing fee, Josh.
Thanks.
Let me say this. I want you to get that listing. If you do, great. If you don't, that sucks, but let's get it. And I feel like,
and there's also a lot of people in our database that decide they're not going to buy and they do a refi.
Right.
I mean, we don't get anything. We spent time on it. And it's like, well, if I can add value to my relationship, any of my relationships, that's still a win.
Yeah.
For my preferred vendors.
So it's definitely, instead of just that shotgun approach, calling a million realtors, lenders, it's not being a two-way street. You guys are really invested in each other's business with adding value and as much as possible, which is fantastic. Yeah. Very different. How about
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Dino, what do you see as a business coach with all this? What do you see on a 10,000-foot view of what these guys are?
The attractiveness is how do you make more money and work with less people? Because the challenge is going back to like that mindset that Brendan said. So many times people in business, salespeople in general, think they need to have like a massive amount of prospects. And so the quality gets watered down, the relationships get watered down, even the emotional energy it takes to maintain certain relationships, sometimes just aren't healthy, but you just feel like you have to. So when you have somebody step in as a third party that's just kind of not attached and just really break it down, like Brendan and Josh are really good at doing, right? And we've gone through this a few times with them. I think that the light bulb is, I really can be a business person and think like a business person and move away from like a commodity, move away from like a vendor type of relationship, move away from the fear of thinking like I'm one mistake away, one mistake away from screwing up a deal or a relationship, or one late closing away that's out of my control. And I'm going to lose this relationship. All those things get totally put away when you take this approach, so you can do more business with less people. And at the end of the day, it's way more fulfilling, way more enjoyable. It's one of those things where it creates longevity in your career.
Yeah.
It makes it a true, like an enjoyable career where you can make a lot of money instead of a grind, anxiety filled, you get beat down, type of career.
And one of the arguments for a lot of people, Dino, they go, well, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I call 25 realtors because what happens if Josh gets hit by a truck tomorrow? Well, you know what? If Josh gets hit by a truck tomorrow, I have no control over that. It is what it is. I don't think you can have that mindset. And I think there's too many lenders that think like lenders and don't think like business owners. And I won't say that just about lenders. That's probably almost every realtor. I'd say the 80-20 rule applies. Most of them act like realtors and not business owners.
Yeah.
If you got hit by a bus by tomorrow, Josh, I just call on Marcy. We keep it all together.
Well, so what's interesting is if you think about that, like how many, like if you think of like the Joshes of the world that have teams of 7, you said 7 buyer's agents. Okay. Like if you think of a lender starting to like really consolidate their business down to say focusing on 3 or 4 main relationships, they don't have to be the $103 or $104 million relationship, but they could be. But think of the buyer's agents that Josh has, okay? And then in all reality, the attrition rate on a realtor's team for buyer's agents it's not like the best retention rate. People come and go. And if you're pretty good at your job and you get along with these people, you follow them around. So just by being it doesn't take much to be above average in this business. If you are just literally above average and you are good at what you do, you're going to start to have an almost not an endless opportunity, but gosh, the opportunities to have like a lot of relationships and almost be able to select which relationships you want to be in and not be Brendan and I have this, we learned this saying. It's a great saying. You can be the prize, not the prisoner. So many lenders walk into this deal and think that they're the prisoner. So think of the prisoner mentality. They have no options. They're told what to do, told to go here and go there. Like, you're the prisoner. You're like, but when you're the prize, it's a completely different approach. These two, Brendan and Josh, they are the prize. They've been working so hard on helping each other's business that there's no way that they can't produce $250,000 plus. And that's just in a year. When you think of the people that Brendan refers Josh and Josh refers Brendan, those relationships stay intact because they're really good at managing their database. And then they're exposed to all those future referrals, not just the repeat business, but the future referrals. So it's, that's a great question, Josh, that you said, like, well, all my eggs in one basket. I just think, again, it's a lot of it's mindset.
You got the wrong eggs in the wrong basket. If that's your
Yeah.
And it could be broken down further, because I think, when I look back at the results, and this year, I think, in light of Corona, I think my goal was to work with 4 of his clients a month and help 48 families this year. And we're tracking for that through April. And I, in the end, a good lender who stays in touch with their clients and, let's say, has a database of 500 to 1,200 people, one of the keys, like, if you're staying in touch with those people, it's amazing to me, is just simply asking questions like, hey, Norm, so you're thinking about this. By the way, hey, just real quick, scale from 1 to 10, with your agent, 1 being not committed and 10 being you're absolutely going to list your house with them. Where are you? And if they say, oh, God, that's a good question. We haven't talked to her in 2 years. I'm like, I'll take that as a 5. Why don't we do this? Norm, it's a really big deal for you to sell your house. I'd like for you to talk to somebody else. And I think, give me a day and I'm going to connect you to somebody that I really trust. Let me think about this. Next day, you get an email from me. Hey, Norm, meet Josh Anderson. Josh, meet Norm. Norm's a past client of mine. He lived in Bangladesh for 12 years. He moved back to Connecticut. And, here's his situation. Take great care of him.
Yeah.
Josh gets that referral. I got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You're my past client. You end up either working with your agent or you give Josh a chance.
Yeah.
That would just be a little technique that, in my opinion, a lender has about 50 of those a year in a database of 500.
Yeah.
But most people aren't willing to put their name on the line. Like, they're not willing to push a little bit and do that. I think it's status quo of like, well, they're already working with somebody. Well,
what are the
but they're
statistics on
happy with
repeat
working with somebody?
realtor? Josh, what's the statistic on repeat realtor usage?
Oh yeah. So the NAR statistic is like 86% of property owners or homeowners would use their agent again, and only 22% actually use that agent again because they never heard from them.
Once the magnet falls off the fridge, they're
Crazy.
contact, huh?
That's because they never hear from them after the closing. Like, they don't stay in touch with their clients. They don't do check-ins. They don't
They
do
get some
pop-ups.
BS spring cleaning tips, email or something like that.
Hey, we're in 2020. I don't need you to tell me to spring forward or fall back. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Interesting. So you guys so a lot of it is the quality of the person you're investing in and really nurturing a real relationship, not just the superficial. So tell me about, like, who should you try to invest your time, your energy, your career, your training into when people are out there trying to pick the right person?
Well, I think it's like anything else. I think you're looking for people that you already know, like, and trust. And I think you're working with who, for me, it's like, who do I think is going to do the best or do the right thing for the client? It's not about the money, the transactions or the money or whatever it is will happen by default if you're doing the right thing. And so it's really, really looking at who can add value to my database and who can help my team from a coaching perspective, who can, like, how can we add value back and forth? Like, what does that look like? And who are the people, I know a lot of contractors and lenders and home inspectors. It's who can who can do the best for our clients.
And know, like, and trust. Yeah.
And who wants to run their business like a business rather than be kind of a look. It's looking at it like it's the book Give and Take. It's like there's some people that just take and never give back, and they don't really understand that piece of the business, the referral.
And like you said, it's finding someone who's actually serious about their business, thinking long term, treating it like a business, not, a superstar. Close 3 deals and you're not going to hear from them for 3 months because they're on vacation or something. So
Norm, it's funny because the lenders are obviously trained to go after the realtors. That's deep ingrained in our training. So the minute our program would be for the lender, in my opinion, who knows how to close loans, but literally is tired of being a bitch. They are like the host parasite relationship. They are done, but they know that if they approach it from a different angle, or like they take off these glasses and put on a different lens, the lens that Josh sees the relationship from, and then says, well, wait a minute, like, because this would be a classic.
A big piece of it, Brendan, is analysis paralysis. They don't know how to start or where to start. It's just like they're stuck.
Or they'll make 3 phone calls to the top realtor in town, and then then get frustrated and stop doing it. Right?
Yeah,
so do anything for me. Like go find me a listing. Like if you want to work with me, go find a listing for me and show me that you're going to do something a little bit different than the average lender. Don't call me and ask me if I want to go to coffee. If I wanted to go get some fucking coffee, I would go to the coffee shop and get some coffee.
Like,
and Josh, ready? And don't send you an expired lead listing that you have to do the work to create the value.
Yeah, like put me in touch with somebody that is a layup deal that needs your help on the lending side eventually, but you're not going to get that business unless unless they list their house and able to do that.
So I guess back to my thing of just feeling like a vendor, if you know that, well, wait a minute, I've got these 500 past clients, I've got financial planners, I've got attorneys. People look at me differently than they look at a realtor. A lot of times they look at the realtor as this dirtbag salesperson that's a non-essential worker right now. Some states, realtors are non-essential. Bankers are essential.
Man. I'm essential AF.
Yes, you are. So the lender can go, well, wait a minute. The average realtor never gets leads from financial planners, but I do.
Yeah.
And the financial planners that I talk to want to refer a realtor, but they don't really like them or trust them or respect them. Let me figure out a way, because here's the big thing. When a realtor refers us, relocating buyers that always want a new banking or a new financial planner, or they need a CPA, and I can load them up and they go, hey, where are these awesome leads coming from? I go, from that realtor that you never called on. Yeah. So the idea is in our training, in these bullet points, Josh mentioned this doesn't happen overnight. Dino said, hey, we've been doing this a long time. The goal would be to teach some of the people that are interested these techniques to start, because you're not going to become a black belt. But like the example of me asking you as my past client on a scale from 1 to 10, that would be white belt training on how to get your realtor some opportunities. This B2B sale of a financial planner takes a little longer. Mm-hmm. Some of the training, kind of lender train the call center people on how to talk better about a mortgage. That could be white belt, yellow belt. I'm using black belt for some reason. I'm using karate as our measuring stick.
Well, because you're, proficient in karate and kung fu fighting, of course. That's why.
Yeah. So I think the idea is this is multifaceted, and it has to be a mindset shift. And Josh is a business person that sells real estate. Yeah. I don't think of him as a realtor.
Yeah.
And I guess just having this 4-way discussion, I was thinking, well, the art of finding the business person that's a realtor is instinctual to that lender who's been doing it for a while. He or she knows who those business people are. Yeah. And they also know who are the realtors, because the realtors are the ones they always have to act. And, hey, Betty, oh my God, it's Monday. Hey, how was your weekend? Oh my God, how are the kids? Oh, did the Chiefs win? Oh, okay. Well, hey, it was just one, you got to be the actor.
Yeah.
You can't be real. So I think transitioning anyone watching, mindset first, then learn some skills maybe we could teach you. Maybe that's, next step. And the bullet points, I think we're working more than 2 or 3, Josh. I think we've worked all 8. It's just a question of which ones we focus on.
Yeah, we've done all of them. It's just
tell me a little bit about that. You have 8 to 10 bullet points in your system, the ultimate business partner. So share the snapshot of some more of those bullet points. I know you covered some of them.
Go ahead, Brendan.
So, one of them right now, and it's kind of interesting, Kung Fu Master. I love it. Josh and I had a couple years ago revamped the open house system.
Okay.
Because his open house, he would call me at 6 o'clock in the morning and cuss me out about how poor the open house results were with his agents. And he's got, 22 listings, but nobody, when Elisa got one deal, you were like, well, at least she can get one. And you remember when you were a new agent, Josh, that was like a good pool for you. So it was like, what's changed? So
most realtors see an open house as nothing but a chore because they're not going to get what they want out of it, and they have to go put out signs. They have to sit there on a Sunday for 2 hours. They have to pull the signs afterward. Like, it's a huge inconvenience. And I think that goes back to a mindset shift of like, you can look at it as an opportunity to pick up other sellers in the neighborhood. You can look at it as a lead generator. I mean, there's some agents that do 10 or 15 or $20 million a year in business completely from open houses.
Yeah.
It's just what you focus on. I mean, I've got a friend in California that does like $25 million a year of his business just from Instagram. Like,
wow.
It's just learning it.
Yeah. So Norm, one of the bullet points that when we wrote this plan out was focusing on the open house to get the agent more listing opportunities.
Okay.
So we went deep for about 90 days, and we're going to go back to this because I honestly believe if we froze time and had a couple $1 million and the 4 of us talked about this thing, that an open house is just nothing other than a monster magnet for Josh to get 15 listings in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
First. And then we broke it down, and there were 5 types of clients coming in. 3 are more for him and a listing, and 2 are for the lender and the buyer's agent who's sitting there in the open house. Needless to say, we fell off on that. That's one part of the plan. Josh and I were just mentioning, like, now it's virtual open houses. What could we do to improve that? And again, me as a lender, I'm thinking less about the open house for me getting a buyer and more like, how do I enhance it for him to get better listing opportunities?
Yeah.
So that's a mental shift in in these 8 bullet points for a lender.
Perfect.
Well, so some of the other things were like, doing seminars together or coaching, or, I mean, there are several things in there that.
The first one, just so you know, when we wrote it out, was how do we refer each other?
Perfect.
So
that's fun.
that is essential in the relationship of building value.
And that sets the tone. Yeah.
Yeah. The second one was understanding a business-to-business opportunity. Like in a business-to-business partnership, could he refer me? He referred me some divorce attorneys years ago. I worked with them for a long time. Needless to say, that relationship has ended. Josh still gets business, but he referred me, and they referred me clients, and I helped them. And ultimately, it was a 3-way triangular relationship that benefited us for years.
Yeah.
So B2B. Third one would be open house. Fourth one would be, trainings. Like, what are you doing consistently to train each other's teams? I'm going into 5.
Let's save some for the webinar, bro.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Let's save some.
Yeah, these are off the top.
Let me have you jump in if it's okay, Dino. So you see this from like I said, the 10,000 foot view, and you deal with a whole lot of coaching for a whole lot of realtors and lenders across the country.
Yeah.
How do you see what these guys have done so special and taken the time to write down and create the system, the ultimate business partner? How do you see that applying to other realtors and lenders? How easily does it translate? And what will the ultimate, effect be on their incomes?
Yeah, it's a way that you can look at your business like a business and operate at a higher level of efficiency, have more fun, and avoid the stress and anxiety associated with managing multiple relationships. And if you're being honest with yourself, some you probably don't even like right now. So it's a way to
Also
enjoy your
very much predictable revenue.
Yeah,
exactly predictable revenue, increased revenue, and longevity in the business that just makes it like you like the people you work with, and you want to refer the people you work with, and you know how to.
Yeah.
So it basically takes all the it takes a lot of the uncertainty out of the business.
Yeah, and we know now. I mean, if you guys know anything, it's the ups and downs, and everyone's trying to shift it, you know. But when you have people and you know them and you're invested in them and they have your back and vice versa, that's authentic. You know, you have someone in the foxhole with you, and you guys are going to be, you know, not only survive but thrive. Huh?
So Norm, it's a true story. Dino does a lot of private coaching with lenders, and he goes through their realtor relationships and does this thing. We call it a cleanse.
Okay,
And
the Dino cleanse. I got to hear this.
dude, I honestly think that Dino could be a billionaire if he just did this for lenders. Yeah. So it's this meter of productivity versus fun. And I remember him doing it with me in this conference room and going through, and like as soon as you say no fun, but like productive, he's like, well, let's put them on the out, because if they're no fun, who cares if they're productive? Like at a certain point in time, you only have a certain amount of time you have left.
Yeah.
So true story. I just got this super impersonal text from a realtor, not a business person.
Oh, wrong text, bro. That's some private stuff. No,
no, this is what it says. Checking in, Brendan, in the midst of all that's going on, making sure all is well. Realtor - Keller Williams.
Yeah.
And Dino and Josh know who this realtor is.
I know.
And I know that, like, he is a realtor. He is not a business person.
Yeah.
He loves it when 11 lenders call him and he feels like the belle of the ball.
Yeah.
And he promises them all something and you get nothing.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, in a pandemic, you get a pre-canned text.
Copy and paste. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
I know Josh calls his clients and says, hey, dude, just check it in. What's happening?
We were talking about that before we started this, about how, you know, the genuine communication and the personal touch and the guidance and the, you know, not just spammed responses going out to everyone, how important that is for clients and relationships. Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah, definitely now.
They're on the edge of their seat trying to figure out what's going on, and they're looking for a professional to, like, even if it's not the right answer, they're looking for something, over communicate something.
Dare me to respond. I am good. Like just some canned response.
Do that later.
Yeah, sorry.
But no, it's very true. And especially these days, there's going to be so many realtors, lenders who were, you know, it was low hanging fruit with low interest rates and hot housing markets. And now they got ahead of themselves. They didn't treat it like a business. They didn't invest in training, marketing, their closing techniques, their systems, their staff. So they're going to be really, you know, they're really going to be struggling here and making short-term sort of panic moves. So those are the people that really need to watch your upcoming webinar, that need to know about your Ultimate Business Partner system, that need to talk to you guys and Dino. Give a little quick commercial about the webinar and how you guys are going to share the system with people.
Sure. It's April 23rd. It's April 23rd. It's probably going to be, you know, 30, 40 minutes. And like Brendan and Josh said, they've been working on these 8 points. Probably going to go over a few of them just to give everybody a taste of what they've been doing that's valuable. They're all actionable items. You can pop on the webinar and walk away with ideas that can get you business right there for 30 minutes of time. It won't cost you a penny. Yeah, and so we're going to go over all that, and then there's going to be an ongoing program behind it. So the idea is to introduce you to the Ultimate Business Partner, like the concept and some bullet points, and then basically help your business grow.
Yeah. And I love that actionable items. It's not a bunch of fluff and a bunch of theory. It's like,
right,
we'll do these things. The only thing you guys can't do for them is add the hard work part of it, huh?
Yeah. Well, and the nice piece is that Brendan and I are both in the business. This isn't theoretical. It's
100%.
like we're actively in the business and
100%.
we're doing it. And we know there's like, it's never like, I don't think you ever are at 10 and hitting 100%, like, because once you get close to it, then you tweak it and one up it and make something better or take something away. I mean, when we're hitting all cylinders, 250 a year as an income is going to be on the like way low end for.
And that's so important you said that, because when we started this out, we asked about basically how this has had an effect on your business. And the first thing you said really was like, it's a work in progress, if I paraphrase, and most other people who are just trying to sell some webinar, some system, some book, they're going to tell you, oh, it's, I went from zero to hero and I'm making all the money in the world and it's perfect. But you guys are like, no, this is a process. We still can improve, but you guys have been at this a long time, and Dino is very good at what he does. And so this is going to help a lot of people who tune in, I think. So how can people actually get in touch with you, whether it's email, web, phone numbers? If realtors and lenders out here want to check out the webinar and see what you guys have going on?
Yeah, there's a link on our website, theultimatebusinesspartners.com, and it's theultimatebusinesspartners with an S.com. Right when you get to the homepage, there's a link to register for the webinar. There's also some material you can download that has a little bit like our podcast series and some other things that we've recorded.
Perfect. Yeah, well, thank you guys. And before I let you go, I know you guys are super busy. You probably have to take a lot of people out to coffee today, right? But I always ask people some sort of fun or philosophical questions. So for you guys, I want to ask, for all three of you, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self, whether it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, when you were just starting out in the business?
Oh, that's a good question. My somewhat generic answer is always the same to this. And I actually did a pretty good job. Not that I did it perfectly, but I think I was forced into doing the basics at a really high level.
Okay.
And I think over time, people get away from those things.
Mm.
And in any industry, it doesn't matter, real estate, lenders, it doesn't matter. Every business, the basics work. And the basics are having the right mindset, asking the right questions, having a database and adding value to it and feeding it. It's knowing your numbers. It's knowing how to time block and make your schedule a certain way. Like, it's just picking up the phone, breaking bread with people, adding value to the business. So it's kind of a generic answer, but it's the one thing I see so many people get away from because they get to a certain point and they're like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. And that's,
you could call it basics. I tend to call it fundamentals, right?
It's just the fundamentals of the business, of any business. And it's like, you can't get away from that because that's what got you to the point where you're at. So you got to keep doing it. Like, my calendar looks the same in 2020 as it did in 2006.
I love it. And that's probably your military background while you have that attention.
Play some of it, yeah.
Yeah, he was beaten up as a child, so
I was the youngest of four, so yes.
Schoolmaster, that explains a lot, huh?
I would say my answer, Josh gave 11 answers in one answer, but all of those are true.
Yeah.
I would say master your presentation. Like how you frame what you do differently than the next person, so that your client says, Josh is different, Brendan's different, Dino's different, Norm's different. They do this.
Yeah.
And it has to be something where, think of it like the Ritz-Carlton. The Ritz-Carlton doesn't have the orange water and the mints and the guy in the valet and everybody in the hallway smiling and saying, hi, Mr. Shrine. They don't do that on accident. That's on purpose.
See, I wouldn't know about that. I stay at the Motel 6. I'm not a
right. And the lady that's cleaning your room has her head down in the basket, and you're like, oh my God, is she stealing my stuff? Right? Yeah. So here's the thing. If my younger self said, God, every little detail matters, the initial phone call, the initial email that goes out, how I refer my agent, the words I use, the way I say it matters. If you get really good at that, back to like how you drop your elbow if you're a baseball player. If you've got a great swing as a little kid, you're going to be good in high school. You're going to be good in college. You're going to be good in the pros.
You have so
Presentation.
many analogies today.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. How about you, Dino, man?
I would tell my younger self to, it is another sports analogy, but I think what makes a professional is that they have the ability to have a short memory. So they don't worry about what just happened. They don't worry about a pass that was overthrown or a catch they dropped, because they know that in about 20 seconds they're going to be in another play. So like the baggage of whatever didn't work, having that mindset of just being fearless and going forward, and don't worry about something that didn't work. Don't just that short memory concept. So retaining the experiences, but having a short memory, because I think that'll help you propel forward.
And to further the sports analogy, when realtors, lenders are prospecting or out there and they're getting no's and they're, they get beat down by it. Even the best baseball player is what, 3 out of 10 times, they're successful.
Yeah.
So if realtors came anywhere even close to that, or lenders, they'd be absolutely killing it, right? So,
Babe Ruth struck out a whole lot more than he hit home runs.
yeah.
Norm, what's your advice to yourself?
Oh man, I'd say Rogaine at a much earlier age. That would probably I don't know. Probably a combination of what you guys are saying, but especially relevant now as we went through the crash in 2008, 9, and now people are getting their asses kicked again. Show up every day. Don't put your head in the sand. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be ugly. You're going to come home like you just did battle, but show up and focus on not the transactions, but reaching people, helping people, impacting people. And that's what's really going to see you through, Yeah.
Is overrated, by the way.
Yeah. Well, guys, I really appreciate your time on this, and I'm excited for the webinar. I'm excited to learn more about your system. So I really appreciate it, guys. Anything you want to say, just let me know.
Thank you, man.
Oh, man, that was great.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Norm. Thanks.
Perfect, guys. All right. Have a great day.
See ya.